Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hey, I'm doing a speaking gig for family hiring in your business. So I want to do a YouTube video as well so I can give you guys some insight onto what I was talking about in there and give you a few tips and tricks that I have found with the businesses that I have done in my family. Um, Types of hiring family, right? One is you've co-founded the business together. You're going to start that way. You're going to do it with your brother, your sister, whatever, your dad, and you're doing it together from day one. Family in a company that you own. The other one after that is management, that you hold like a management position, and then you hire somebody within that business to work with you, but you don't necessarily own the business. It's still a family relationship that you have to be careful with. There's lots of questions when it comes to hiring family, right? Will this affect my relationship outside of work? How will it impact employees in the business? How will I handle a family emergency, right? If you two of you are in the business, who's going to cover the business while you're away if you are the two co-founders? Hiring your family members, will they leave? Will they want to leave? How will you fire them? Will that be something that ripples into the family aspect of things? You've got to think about that, right? And what if at the end of the day, you just have to plain out fire the employee? You have to figure out a way that it's going to work for you and not affect everything in your life as well as your family life, right? So a few pros and cons that I just wanted to shoot over to you guys. So pros is obviously family is going to trust you right away, right? You've already built up that, you have that relationship. So they are in it for the long term with you. You have strong values together that you've grown up together with. You have a great sense of loyalty within that family, and you have a strong trust, which trust is the basis of leadership. So if you are the founder or a manager in it and you don't have trust with that family member, you need to not look at that option because it's not going to work. If they don't trust you, it's going to just diminish your leadership and your respect within the business already. So you have to think about that, right? The cons. I was reading something the other day, and this guy was talking about how you need to look at the employment laws within your area on hiring family. I've never personally actually thought about this, but it's a very good thing to look into for wherever you are located. Make sure that you look into that because it could be an aspect that you have to consider when you're hiring family. Make sure that there is always an agreement in place when you're hiring that person. Don't go into these relationships or hiring family without having some sort of written thing that says, you know, this is your job, this is the expectation, these are the family aspects that you have to take into consideration, and where's that line on where's business and where's family, right? Leading on to that too is like family dinners and things. You can't have those business conversations and try to continue to work the business while sitting at dinner with everybody else. It's one thing for you and your, say, your brother, in my case, go to dinner and you're talking and having a conversation about where the business is going, things that are going on in the business. That's totally different. What I'm talking about is the family aspect, right? So if you're at Christmas dinner and family stuff is coming up, or sorry, business stuff is coming up, you have to really split that line and say, you know, we'll talk about that later. This is a family function. I think having a very thick line in that is super important for the business relationship and the family relationship. Relationships in and outside the business. So if you have somebody that you hire that, you know, they could potentially be a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or there's, you know, that commingling within your business. When it comes to family, that needs to be a no-go. You need to have that conversation up front because it's gonna have a huge impact on your business that you won't realize until further down the road. And especially if you are founders in the business or if you're in a management position that with another company, you really want to monitor what happens within your family and the business. That has to be completely separate. There can't be any commingling, like anything like that. You'd want to make sure that it's 100% separate for legal reasons, for morale in the business, for, you know, keeping the trust inside the business. You have to really monitor that. So one of the biggest things that I think that can go with anything is make sure that you have those hard conversations up front. Discuss what's expected of the person, discuss what position they will be doing, discuss if this goes sideways, how are they getting fired, how is that going to affect our family life, and make sure that it is all laid out before you even look at what position they would be taking. The second part to that is make sure that they're qualified for that position. If you have a management staff in place in your business, right, and you're going to hire, a position comes up, let's say, and you're going to hire a family member, you've got to make sure that that family member meets the requirements of that position. You don't want to just hire someone just because they're family and they'll figure it out. your management team is it's gonna put a little bit of ice between you and your family, or your management team, sorry, because they're not going to think that you're respecting their decision, and you have to have an open door policy with them. You've already hired them, they're already doing the work. If your business is running tickety boo and you're making money, you're doing your thing, make sure that you don't undermine those managers and just push in somebody from your family. They have to be a good fit for it. When you're doing the interview process, make sure that they are a part of the conversation. But also, when it comes to if a disciplinary or a firing has to come down to it, make sure that you are in the room and involved with the process. Don't get somebody else to do the dirty work or whatever, right? Make sure that you're in there as well. If it gets really ugly, then you've got to look at different options. But most of the time, family can kind of figure it out unless it's some really sour stuff. On that note, if there is any kind of baggage in the background, past histories with not getting along, or something that person's not a fan of that you've done, or something that they can't move past, make sure that you just cut the ties right there. Don't even involve them in the business. It's going to reflect everything down through your management staff, through you, through the family, everything, and it won't be seen from the shoes that you probably see it at. So make sure that you eliminate that right away. If there's any kind of family baggage, that you don't go into business together. The last thing that you want to do is, we've all been for a company where we have the boss's son, right? Or the boss's daughter. And you want to really make sure that you get rid of that stigma, or that you don't have it in your business, and make sure that you're not showing any kind of favoritism for that person as best you can. I mean, there's obviously going to be an emotional connection with that person because they're family. So there's going to be a little bit of that. But at the same time, you have to really, again, make sure you got that fine line that shows this is family, this is business, and really make sure that you're not putting that person into positions that they're not ready for, or that they're getting extra perks that somebody else in an employee position wouldn't get. In this context, we're talking about somebody that actually works for you. Like if I own the company and I have an employee working for me, in a management thing, it's a little bit different, but really make sure that that person is getting the same treatment that everybody else would. Even in a management position, you want to make sure that, they're not getting benefits and perks and extra shifts or different this and that, or they're getting extra pay than these guys. You really want to make sure that it's a clean slate, level playing field for everybody, because otherwise you will end up with that stigma in your business that, oh, it's just the boss's son. He does what he wants. He gets what he wants. He's paid more than all of us. He's never fireable, all of that stuff, right? We've all been in that type of business at some point or another. You really want to make sure that in your business, if that's even a thought that you might have that might come up with this, then maybe don't look at that relationship. Maybe look at hiring somebody from outside the family. If you co-found a business with a family member, you want to, again, have that hard conversation up front on who's responsible for what. I was working in a business for a while, and the two owners didn't see eye to eye. They didn't have laid out, like, here, you take care of this and you take care of this. And it created a lot of friction in the field when we were doing job sites and working into growing the business. It became a problem, right? Because they weren't seeing eye to eye. One thought this guy was taking responsibility, the other thought he was taking responsibility for it, and it just wasn't getting done. And so you really have to make sure that you sit down, write out a job title. Like if it's a CEO and a COO, if that's what you have to do, then fine, write it out. What is it that they are exactly responsible for every day of the business, and how is that going to affect your relationship outside of work as well, right? There's a lot going on when you hire a family. You really need to consider that. I've been lucky enough that my brother, we haven't seen, I've hired both my brothers and my father-in-law for a job. And luckily with my brothers, we've been pretty good about everything. My younger brother, obviously there's some tensions once in a while because he thinks that everything's got to be done a certain way, but I've been blessed that we haven't had any big family outbreaks or anything like that. Now we all work for different companies, so it's not an issue, but it's definitely something that you have to really consider. If that relationship isn't strong enough to handle the business side as well as the family side, then you probably need to just consider going a different way. And if you can't make that decision yourself, you need to involve your management staff that you already have, if you have it in place. Bring them into the conversation and say, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? Get them to interview them. You talk with them as well, but make sure that they can interview them openly without any repercussions from you as the owner. Make sure that they know they're not going to get fired just because they didn't hire your family, right? If you can't make that fine line or that decision yourself, involve a third party, bring them in, preferably somebody from either an HR department or somebody from a very upper management position to kind of look at it from an outside view and give you solid feedback on what they think should be done. So my last little tips here is have a policy in place for hiring family, discuss the hard things up front, have a third party involved if needed. Don't lose sight of the values of the company just because it's family. And lastly, if the position isn't actually there and the person isn't qualified, don't hire family just because you're getting impact from everybody else outside in your family circle to hire this person because they don't have a job or they need extra work or they think they would be a good fit. At the end of the day, it is your business and you have to decide what's best for you to move forward. If they're not a good fit, continue on and just keep growing your business. So I hope this added value to you guys today, and we'll chat soon.